I definitely think that one of my father's greatest fights was his fight with the Supreme Court. You know, a lot of people forget about what he went through back in the day when he was younger, when he wasn't quite so loved by everyone. You know, when he had to stand up for his beliefs in his religion and wasn't going to go to the war to fight for his country. And, you know, everything was taken away from him. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage and belief in yourself and faith to be able to do that, especially being a world champion at the time, having all that he had and to have it all taken away from him.
When I saw the details of what actually went on inside the Supreme Court, where he was actually voted down, Ali was voted down, and it was Justice Harlan's clerks who helped influence Justice Harlan to disagree with the majority decision.
Sir, Ali, for all intents and purposes, is opposed to all wars. It's right there in the book, in black and white, no ambiguity. I've marked it up for you, sir.
Ben Walker plays Justice Harlan's clerk. Fantastic ensemble. Oscar winner Christopher Plummer, I mean, he was the first one who came on board.
Citizens cannot pick and choose which war they wish to fight.
Frank Langella, one of our greatest actors, plays Berger.
I'm going to curve the bench. You see, that way we can see each other, and we can hear each other.
Danny Glover, you know, Fritz Weaver, a bunch of great actors.
They preach racial segregation. I am an integrationist.
There aren't a lot of films that really tell Supreme Court justice stories and get behind the curtain on the Supreme Court. And I feel like we were able to do that, but with a great, unique story anchored by an icon.
Even though Muhammad, this was a fight for him, it was also a fight for every other person who didn't have a voice, who couldn't take center stage and stand up against the war.
The situation in the country was so polarized that it's interesting that Muhammad Ali really came out on what turned out to be sort of the right side of the issue, even though at the time he was called a draft dodger, he was called all kinds of names. But in reality, the country eventually turned and pivoted in that direction.
When you look also at the future and the life that Muhammad Ali has created and what he's done with his success, you see what would have happened if the wrong decision had been made, and all the people that he affects and will affect all his entire life would not have been the recipients of his generosity and of his focus on human rights.
Here's a guy that people thought his goal was to be the biggest, baddest athlete of the 20th century. That was not what he was trying to do. He wanted to do that so he could be the biggest, baddest humanitarian of the 20th century.
I think he enjoyed that part of his life as much as anything he ever did in boxing. He had a message, and that was more important to him than who he might have won for the heavyweight championship.
My father and his life and the example that he led just shows that, you know, we all should be respected, whether it's our religion, our differences, or whatever it may be. We're not going to always agree with each other, but, you know, we have to get along. And sometimes you have to put up a fight, and usually the right thing always happens in the end.